Hello, and welcome to our College Sports Communicators webinar, where we will focus on PrestoStats and the tips and tricks needed to be successful as we head into a new school year. I am Tommy Chasanoff. I'm the Assistant Athletic Director for Sports Information at the University of the Cumberlands and a proud member of CSC's Professional Development and Education Committee. I'm excited to serve as today's moderator. Today's panelists will include Brad Seigan, who is the Director of Marketing for PrestoSports and someone I've had the pleasure of working closely with over the past several years. Brad brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in the athletic communication field to this webinar. Thank you for those who have submitted questions during registration. If you are watching live, you can submit additional questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We got a lot of things to cover today, so Brad, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself and kick things off.
Thanks, Tommy. My name is Brad Seigan. As Tommy mentioned, I'm the Director of Marketing at PrestoSports. Also, as Tommy mentioned, I spent my career as an SID, athletics communications field, both in the NAIA and NCAA Division I. So I've done a little bit of everything. So I've been where you've been. I understand the constraints of the job. So today I'm going to go through a little bit of a refresher on PrestoStats, and get you kind of up to speed and give you a few tips and tricks to help make things a little bit easier, especially in really difficult times. I know we're coming up on crossover season for the first time this year. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can get you kind of squared away and make things a little bit easier. So with that said, I will go ahead and share my screen and we will get started. Okay, so today, we're going to get into a little bit on PrestoStats, tell you a little bit more about it. So just wanted to kind of give you an idea about PrestoStats and kind of how it powers everything. It really powers everything that we do, as you can see here. PrestoStats is really in the middle of everything. So not only our websites, but AI, our shots graphic system, a little bit of everything. So everything that we do is all pointed toward making sure that PrestoStats is really the focus and kind of powers everything with its data. We have several offerings for PrestoStats. So while you're probably thinking about a couple right now, we have a lot of different things. So just thinking forward toward not only winter with basketball season just a few weeks away and spring season coming up, here are all the sports that we offer. We do have a new version of football. We do have a tennis platform that we've recently launched about last year. So you can kind of see some of the different things that we do offer. So going into some tips here, just the first thing, I kind of want to do some things like step by step, right? So the first thing that you're going to need to do is enter your rosters within the Presto platform. I'm going to show you a little bit about that in a little bit, but I do want to just kind of walk through the 3 ways that you can enter a roster. Number 1, you can add a player one-off. That's quite easy going in there, and we'll walk through that a little bit. Next, and I'll jump down, you can import a CSV. So you can grab that, import a CSV or Excel file, really import that into there using the correct columns. You can export a sample one and then use that to populate to import, and it can import all of your roster data. The final one, you can import a Stat Crew roster file. So for those of you that are still using Stat Crew rosters, or those of you that may have a sidearm site that has all of that info on there, you can upload all of that into there. Now, Tommy, I know you use a sidearm site. Anything important to note on the Stat Crew roster piece of it where you can download that from sidearm?
Yeah, absolutely. When you go through the back end of sidearms, you can download the roster. It uploads directly into Presto. 2 things to keep in mind, though. The first one is when you upload it, it's going to try to link to your previous years. It's always going to come up as new players. You want to import that roster first, and then after it's imported, then you want to go back and hit edit career, and it will link to previous years. You can't do it in that first step. you need to take that extra step to link it to the name for the previous year. The other thing is I have noticed that if you have some long names or if you have pronunciations, the names could get mixed up a little bit. So make sure you check in the spelling of your names when it comes into Presto. And then the third thing is you're going to want to make sure that you check that all the members of your team are uploaded into Presto. Somehow, for some reason, sometimes when you upload a Stat Crew file, if you have a basketball team, you have 20 members, only 17 will be uploaded. So you want to catch that up front instead of waiting till the first game and then this person's going to check in and you're realizing, oh, this person's not on the roster. So it's always important to go through and just double check and spot check things to make sure it's accurate.
Thanks, Tommy. That's really helpful. In the Presto platform, so those of you that have Presto Web, it's a little bit different of a process. Typically, you can at least upload all of that stuff in and of itself. But if you are going to add players in an individual basis, or even import the CSV, make sure you do that in the BIOS tab. The BIOS tab will feed the shared roster tab. And the shared roster tab is where all of that data for PrestoStats comes from. That's where your roster data lives. But if you have a Presto website, enter it all in the BIOS tab. That will go automatically over to the shared roster, and then that will be what you'll be able to utilize. The next step is to enter your schedules. Now, there are two ways to do this. You can import a CSV that is an option. What we always recommend is to do this on an individual event basis. There's so many different checkboxes that you might want to use. There's a lot of different options that you have when you enter an event, whether it's exhibition, whether the stats count, whether it's postseason, anything like that. We always recommend that you do those one-off. You can import a CSV, but we definitely recommend to do this on an individual event basis. Real important tip, and this is where some people run into issues, especially early in the season when you're not into conference play yet. You're probably going to see schools, if you're an NCAA school, you're probably going to see an NAIA school on there. If you're an NAIA school, you're going to see a D2 school on there. Make sure that if you see a school from a different association, that you are contacting us immediately. So if your coach gives you your schedule and you identify 3 or 4 schools that are not, if you're a D2 school and these are schools that are not D2, give us that list of schools that you need access to early. You can do it as soon as you get the schedule, and then we can go in and make sure you have access to add them to your schedule. That's the easiest way to do it. That way you don't get caught late when you want to make sure you add that team. So we always ask that you identify it early. It's going to make it easier on you, and then you're going to get a little bit of quicker service as well. So that's a really cool thing. Yeah.
A couple other things with that though is make sure you are paying attention to that stuff like you mentioned, but also adding links. Like when you're adding live stat links or video links, especially for home events, because the links are not going to change if you're going to a sidearm platform or whatever your platform is. You can put in the entire schedule and then just go to the links tab and click every game and add a live stat link to every game at one time, which will save you time instead of having to go each game individually, game by game, and add links to those games.
That's a great tip. Thanks, Tommy. One note, and this is something we get asked about every year. So I do want to mention, I'm also going to show you this in a little bit too, that when you get into like March, April timeframe, and your fall coaches are coming to you saying, hey, I've got my schedule, and you're ready to start adding those. So you don't see it on the right-hand side where you have your active seasons. Starting in April, we start activating the next season. So even though you don't see those on the right side, they are available for you to go ahead and enter your information for next year. And you can do that by going ahead in game day and clicking the seasons tab. And then you can go filter down through your sport. So you click your seasons tab, then your sport. I'm going to show you how to do this in a second. And then you'll see any additional years that we have active. You'll see any years that you have access to. So when we do that, typically again in April, that's where all those live. So you don't need to worry or don't have to wait until July 1 to enter all of that. It's typically already available in around April timeframe. So again, I will show you that in a little bit. So now we will go into our live demo, and I will take you into our volleyball demo. So a couple of things, just like I was saying. So when you are in game day, and I'll just kind of go back to the point that I was making, if you want to see all the seasons you have access to, you just click on seasons. And then you can click on your sport. And because we're in the demo season, you can see that you see baseball here. But if you're in a live season, you will see all the seasons that you have access to. And then it will all be available here. It'll show you the start and end date. Because we only have one season for baseball, that's what you can see, but it'll have multiple seasons. It will show you the start and end. And so you would have, the 26-27 season perhaps, but that's what that would look like. That's where you would go for that. So going back into here, you would click on any one of these sports that you want to do. So I'm going to start with volleyball. And when we start in volleyball, I've already got starters added here. That's fairly easy. It's the same in every single sport. You get prompted immediately whether you're going to do live entry or you're going to do score sheet entry. 99% of you are doing live entry, so that's where you would go. So you would go to set starters participation, and once you click a starter, we already have one here, but I'm going to go ahead and click off this one. And once I click it, you'll see the participation's already been added. And that's exactly what you want. And then you'll click to your other team and click your starters and your participation, and all that's done. So that's how you would do starters. Now, here's what I would recommend. And this is important. If you'll see both of these starting lineups, you see your single digits are just simply single, but the other team has them at 01, 02. I always recommend, because it's easier just to know that you have to type double digits, to go ahead and before you enter starters to change these numbers. So if you notice, I can't change the number now because this person is entered as a starter. So what I will do right now is I will go for stats 1. I will take out their starters real quick. And you see that's where you can choose all that stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and go into rosters and go to edit these. And now you can see that I can add that in. So if you're doing it within the software, it's not going to change the roster that goes in there. It's just going to change it within the game. So this will make it easy, especially with the speed of volleyball, just to make sure you're always typing in 06, 10, 17, whatever it may be. Tommy, anything to add while I'm just updating these real quick?
The only thing I'm going to add is if you open a game early and then the opponent says that they hadn't had a chance to put their roster in, but then they had, you're going to have to close out that game, probably delete that game and remake the game and reopen it. Because once you open a game, Presto cannot grab the roster that has been imported from the other school. So just be aware of that. I've had that happen a couple of times, especially with like football, where they put in a roster and it's showing up that there's no roster in there. We had to delete it, create a new game, and then it would pop up. So just something to be aware of as you move forward.
Yeah, that's a really good point. As soon as you open the game, it's going to pull in everything, and it's not going to continuously pull in anything that's been added after the fact. So if someone did make changes to the roster, you would just have to close the game, reopen it. And like Tommy said, you're going to need to delete that event and then re-add it. So That's the easiest way to do it. The other thing in volleyball that I think is really important to note is your options down here. This is critical. You see, I've got advanced editing clicked on as yes. I recommend this for everybody, especially if you're used to Stack Group, because this will give you the option of changing things much easier within the editing. You can also do assist after kills where it's going to prompt you for that. You can do that if you want. That's up to you. But if I hit save and then I enter play, and then so I'm just kind of going back through this. Now you'll notice anything that's underlined, that is a hotkey. So I can hit A rather than click it, 06. And so you can type those as well as click them. And I'm going to type K for a kill. And then it's going to prompt me for the assist. And there you go. So if I want to edit that, I'll just go into the full play-by-play. I'll click this one, click edit, and I'll go into the advanced edit. And see, here's where I see every play here, and I can simply just go change a number if I want. That makes it so much easier. I'll click save. Tommy, anything to add on that? I know that's a big favorite of yours.
That is a big part of it. The bigger thing I have too is at the end of a game when we're getting set to wrap up a game, is if you have this roster, if you have your records in there set up, do not go in the post game and update the records, because if you complete the information, once you complete it and the game's marked as final, then the Presto will update the records automatically for you. So you don't, otherwise it looks like you had 2 wins instead of 1. So that's something to keep your eye on. The other thing is, make sure you look up on when you're wrapping up a game, because certain games do require you to put an end time or total time, because if you do not put that information in, the game will look complete, but it's not final until all of that necessary or mandatory information is put into the game wrap-up.
That's exactly correct. In fact, if I took this out, it will all automatically tell you you're missing a location. So I can add that back in. But anything marked with a red asterisk are necessary fields. So that's definitely important to know. You can also change your keystrokes for home and visitor as well. So a lot of different options there. So volleyball, that's a really good way to make things a little bit easier on yourself. And then going into baseball, because I know there's a lot of new users for baseball and softball this year. So I did want to address it. I've already got starters in here and everything, but I did want to show you just a little bit more on it. So when I change the team IDs, you'll notice in the add play, it will show you that lineup. So that's where that's going to pull from. So it'll make it a little bit easier. But typically in your setup, you're going to have your name already in here, and then you can just add in an acronym there. So it makes it a little bit easier. Your rosters are all run by here. If you've never done this before, but you've used Stack Crew, it's the same way. You can go in and change starters, or you can change your lineup. You change starters just to change anything in the starting lineup in particular. But with changed lineup, that's going to be throughout the game. So if you're going to do a double switch, you've got a runner, in some leagues, a courtesy runner, you would do all that through here. And again, just like Stack Crew, you can type in the number of the roster, number of the person on the roster, and you can type in the position number. So DH is 10, and it automatically changes that to DH. So I can change this to 18 and then 9. And there you go. So pretty easy to do, or you can just go select it here. The other thing that I don't know if many people know is that you can actually go click the person on the field too. So if your second baseman gets injured or anything happens, you're doing a double switch or something, you just want to change your pitcher, you can do it from here. The only problem is it's just a little bit more cumbersome to go scroll down and find the person, but you can easily do that as well. So that's another easy way to do any sort of a baseball or softball switch.
This Presto will prompt you if you have a pinch runner or a courtesy runner or a pinch hitter. It will prompt you to put a position player in, even if that player's staying in. It will pop up saying you need a second baseman. If that player's staying in, then you will just change it to second baseman. But just be aware of that. It will prompt you saying when your team goes back to defense, you will need a position or a player at every position.
Exactly. One thing to note is you've got your NCAA box score that you can go grab from here, and has all the information that you have in your setup. So in your setup, you can put in your umpires. As you can see, this is maybe the worst collection of umpires on the face of the planet. So I had fun doing that. But also you've got all sorts of options here. But that's so when you put your location, your stadium, all that stuff, it's of course going to populate in here as well. One thing that we are adding for this coming year that's not in here yet, we are adding a pregame lineup report. So that report should be very similar to the NCAA box score that we have, but it will have season stats in here as well. So that's a nice new thing that we're going to be adding in time for the spring season. So keep an eye out for that. The one thing that you will see, and we've talked about it a lot, I will also mention it again, the pack file is going to go away. But what that's allowing us to do is add more people to your roster and expand the amount of characters for names. So we're very restricted with a pack file on those two fronts, in addition to several other things. So moving past that, that will allow us to do some different things. So just a heads up on that. Tommy, anything else that we need to get into with baseball or even volleyball?
No, I think you touched on them very well, Brad. I think the big thing, as you just mentioned, with the roster limits going away, one thing I would go to, if you can click on the reports tab real quickly, one thing that to be aware of, if you click on that email tab on this reports tab, it's a great resource to send the game file to a visiting SID. Typically, I will always pick the one at the very bottom, because it sends them an XML, it sends them a PDF and everything all at one shot. So you can send something to your visiting SID right from the staff file. You don't have to download it and then send it in an email. So that's something to keep in mind, just to save you a little bit of time.
That's great. Yeah, that is a nice resource to have. What we also recommend for NCAA customers is always click send to NCAA after your game is over. These games are being automatically sent into NCAA Manager, but just to make sure everything captures the final and everything is all right and correct in there, it's always safer just to click send to NCAA. That's what we always recommend. One thing that is really helpful, so baseball and softball especially are in the same boat. Cheat sheets are really helpful in terms of what codes are. So I would recommend, if you need a cheat sheet, if you just need just a quick access to it, you can just go click on help and you see all of these options here. So there's a lot of different things here. You can click cheat sheet and it will bring up your cheat sheet. So there's simple cheat sheets here, simple things that will help you to know what codes that you can use. You can always click and everything too, but these are pretty standard. So
I will say those cheat sheets do come in handy, even as someone who's a veteran. We've all seen it where you have just some odd play that happens, a runner leaves early, stuff like that. Those cheat sheets do come in very handy to make sure you know the proper sequence for that Presto would read it correctly. Because if you put it out of sequence, it will read the play a different way than what you're intending. So always check the play-by-play to make sure, especially on those not routine plays, to make sure it's going in the correct way.
Perfect. All right. One of the last things that I did want to show is lacrosse. Lacrosse, setting rosters, lineups, same exact way that you've seen. But it's quite easy to use this. It's going to be very similar to soccer, where if I hit the space bar here, it'll start the clock, and then I can enter things directly from their hotkey, or I can click on it. So if I just hit S for shot, and then I can click stats 1, and then we'll say 3 had the shot, and he claimed it off the crossbar. So I'll hit C, and it automatically puts that into here. So Justice Davis having a big day. But if I want to edit that, I can go click in here and edit who had the shot result, and then the clock time. So all of that stuff is available in here. Tommy, you are a resident lacrosse expert. Is there anything here that you think is really important that this group should know?
Yes. So one thing is on a face-off, and if you can click face-off real quickly, Brad, I'd appreciate it. Pick any 2 numbers for these players. When you get into the next screen, the team that wins, it doesn't matter for this sake. The first question they're going to ask, is there a face-off violation? More times than not, it's going to be no, but you do have those face-off violations. So if you hit no on that, then it's going to ask for a ground ball. Obviously, there are going to be times when there are no ground balls because the ball goes out of bounds or something else happens. Then you just click no ground ball. So be aware of those sequences. On the women's lacrosse, this is men's lacrosse that you're seeing. On the women's lacrosse side, there is the yellow card, green card, red card. You would click those buttons. You don't have to click penalty and then put those in. You would just click a yellow card, a green card, or a red card. And then the other big thing with the differences between men's and women's, it will come up as a draw control instead of a face-off. So those are the 2 big things between men's and women. And clock warnings really don't apply to college at NCAA or NAIA level. Clock violations, you do have your shot clock violations. I typically will put it in as a team turnover, though, because I don't think just because you put it in as a clock violation, it does not register as a turnover for the team. So just be aware of that.
Cool. And again, if you need just a little bit of help, a little bit of instruction, you have all of these great options right here. So if you're going through it, you can take a look at that. We are in our demo environment right now, which is at tryprestostats.com. I will put into the chat here in a little bit the help article in order to be able to use this. And this is the best way to practice. So if you want to just get your GA or you need a little bit of a refresher, go in here. You can create an event pretty easily and you can set all this stuff up. They're already preloaded rosters and everything. So if you just need a little bit of hands-on experience, this is a good option. Okay. That is lacrosse. I'm going to show you a little bit about.
Can we go back to baseball for a second?
Absolutely.
We had a question that can you show the ad play main page for the baseball? Thank you. So off of this, what I would do is let's pull up the input pitcher thing on here. So if you have a batter up, you can tell it whether it's fouled off or ball strike, what kind of strike, what swinging look is, hit by the pitch, anything like that. And then if it's in play, you're going to hit P. And then if it's a double to left, it would just be double left field or double 9 or double 7, sorry. But stuff like that, you should be able, that should look very similar to what you used for Stat Crew in the past.
So I can hit P and go back into that, and I can enter a couple of pitches and then hit escape, which will not charge a pitch, and it will keep your pitch count in there. And I can tab up here and say he has stolen base. I can move him over, and you can see the pitch count is still in there. So then you can complete your play. So I can hit P and then home run to right center. Pretty easy.
Brad, we do have another question. You mentioned pack files going away. Is that for baseball, softball only, or for all sports? I'm wondering the best way to continue to maintain stack through files as an archive.
So pack files are going away. The first ones that will probably end up doing that with is baseball, softball. Baseball, softball is a guarantee for this year. I don't think we were able to finalize everything going away for the other sports, but they will be going away at minimum next year. So we're recommending that people not count on pack files. Totally understand where you're coming from with the record keeping and all that stuff in Stat Crew. That's why we did create a record books product. And if you haven't seen that lately, I definitely recommend you taking a look at it. We have a link in our deck that you can go check it out or talk to somebody from our end. But the record books product has actually grown quite a bit. Right now in there, you can upload your XMLs both season or per game from Stat Crew or from whatever else you were using. You can manually enter stats if you only have manual stats from previous years. You can now run game by game reports as far as, or game highs, I should say. You can run all of your individual stat records. It's actually a pretty nice system. If we've got some time a little bit later, I can show that off. But that is a good option. The last thing that we're working on it right now. We've made a lot of updates this year so far. But the last thing we're getting into for this iteration are your minimums. So we're setting all the minimums up. So you'll have both an organizational minimum. So if you're an NCAA, NAIA, NJCAA client, what have you, there will be a default for their minimums. And then you can also add your own minimums if those differ for your own institution. So you would be able to set those and get those reports. You can export those reports in both PDF and HTML. So different options for that. If you're using PrestoStats, we've actually just launched this. So the stats will automatically feed in. You don't even have to click a button anymore, and they will automatically come in from PrestoStats. So.
And Brad, can you go back to lacrosse? Because there was a question about switching between halves and stuff like that. So if you click on the game control, you have all these different options. There is the start period and end period. I think those are two big things. Timeouts are going to be on the screen as well. For football, and I will go into football just real quickly, you will have one that says start new quarter, and then there's a different one that says start new half. So you want to make sure you're paying attention because you don't want to start new quarter and move it to the third quarter. You want to start it as a new half for football because then it will prompt the kickoff of which team's kicking off. So just be aware of stuff like that. If you hit new quarter, the play will carry over from the previous quarter. And that's a football thing.
Yeah. Tommy, one thing on that I do want to show people is if you go back and we'll go back into a game here. So we'll go back into our lacrosse season. So this is the game that we're working on right now. I'm going to click on this event. So you would just go back to your schedule and click on the event. You've got all of these changes that you've got here, but you can go to show all, see all of these iterations of your game. If you go click on box score though, so say you advance a quarter or a period a little bit too soon and you realize it in the moment. If you go click back here, you can go back to any of the previous versions. So anytime a change was made, you can go click on that. So So see where we ended the first and started the second. If you realize that you did that and you're not ready to do that in the moment, the easiest thing to do is come back. Don't keep adding stats. Come back in here and go click on that version. And then you can revert back to that version and hit continue. And you're going to save box score. Okay. Now, when you open PrestoStats, you notice that it goes back to where we were. So if you realize it in the moment, that's the easiest way to do it. If you go through an entire game and you stat things in the wrong quarter or wrong period or what have you, the best thing to do at that point is to download your play-by-play and go ahead and revert back, and then you can re-add all that stuff in the correct quarter. There's no real way to move things back to a quarter if you statted in the wrong quarter, so you would need to revert back to that point, but always save your play-by-play at that point. Sorry, Tommy, go ahead.
Absolutely. No, that's great information. Another question from the audience. Can we get water polo stats to keep the header when you manually input stats like volleyball? Right now, if you scroll down, you lose the header that says shots, steals, etc. So just something to keep it.
Yeah, I think that's something we can definitely look at. That's a really good point. So we'll go ahead and mark that as a note to send to our developers team, and we can go ahead and take a look at that.
Absolutely. Now, Brad, if I'm hosting a neutral site game between two schools, when I log into Presto, I'm not going to be able. How do I give myself access to allow for me to start a neutral site game without having to manually input everything myself?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. There's two ways of doing it. Number one, if you're doing it for any of those two teams that are a neutral site, they can give you access through the user management. And I believe in our deck we've got a link for that you can go and take a look and see how to do all the user management. The other way of doing it is, say you're going to a softball tournament and there are 20 teams. You don't want to have to worry about going to 10 different schools to have them to allow you to have access. Just contact our support team. Tell us what teams you need access to, what sport, what dates, and we'll go ahead and do that. Of course, I always recommend the earlier the better to go ahead and contact them. You don't want to be doing it the day of. If you get into that situation, we can definitely help you. We have an emergency SMS line that you can text us and tell us what you need. Let us know your time frame, and we'll help you get that done. But always recommend taking a look at your schedule. And if you're going to be the one statting, let us know that as soon as possible, and we can give you access to those teams.
And we do want to remind our audience that they have questions during this live feed. They can put it in the Q&A box in the bottom of your Zoom, because we want to be able to answer those questions for you. Thank you to everyone who has submitted questions already.
One thing I will mention on user management, if you are a school in the NAIA, your process is going to be a little bit different. When you log into the back end of the NAIA platform to NAI stats, which is where you should be logging in to enter your stats. Once you log in there, you can use user management and give yourself access to everything. Based on how the NAI works, it's a little bit different than everybody else.
Yeah, you don't, and for NAI users, you want to stat the game through PrestoStats.com. You want to use the NAI platform for the user management, and that's how you also add new users if you have a GA or someone trying to get them access to your stats as well.
Okay. Looking through everything, I can actually go back and let's go back to game day, and we'll just go. I can go ahead and edit our rosters here, but just so you can see, it did tell you how to enter your rosters. The easiest thing to do, let me move this so I can.
And Brad, just real quickly, while you're on the screen, the edit career button is what you want to hit to make sure you can link them to previous seasons.
Exactly. Yeah, this will allow you to copy a player to a new team in the same season. But yeah, that's how you link everybody and sync all those folks up. You can add a new player here, and this is if you're going to add players one by one. This is how you would add them. You can add all of this information in here. Now, this is just your shared roster. Your BIOS roster is what you're going to want to do if you're a Presto web customer.
One thing with this though, Brad, and it's more, and I've seen it more with football, is if you have a player change a number in the middle of a season, or the player who's wearing number 5 is not wearing number 5 because he's not playing, if you go ahead and edit on that player and make him inactive, it's not going to let you add another number 5 unless you delete the number 5 off of this player originally. Just be aware of that. Just because you make him inactive, he's still going to have a number 5 unless you add. So to add another number 5, you have to delete the number 5 off the original player.
Exactly. And one more thing that you want to think about is if, we've all been through it. Coach doesn't tell you, but all of a sudden they're 5 minutes from game and this player's wearing a different jersey number than he didn't tell you or she didn't tell you. You can always go into the game and change that person's jersey number. I would recommend to do it within the stats platform, and then make sure you match it up at the end of the game to the original player's number. That's just the easiest way.
Yeah, especially do you want to do it in which, because at that point, especially if the game's already open, if you come back to this and change the number, it's not going to register in the game platform because it's already been open. So doing it in game would make a big difference.
Absolutely. Okay, we will go back to our slideshow. There's a bunch of tips and tricks in here. So we've put a lot of this in here using the advanced editing tool of Volleyball. Clicking on the player's name. You have the cheat sheets. There's a link for that in here. To always double check for quarters and everything. One thing that I do want to show you is Presto Sync, and just an idea of what that is. So Presto Sync comes with PrestoStats, and it is a separate platform that you download. This is to sync your stuff to a scoreboard in order to get data out. And it's the easiest way to do that. Works with Daktronics, Nevco. Nevco actually has done some recent additions, so make sure you check with your Nevco rep. But we've spoken to them in June and should all be working. But OES should work with all of those. So you should be able to basically what it'll do is save a local file that it's constantly updating with XML data that your scoreboard can grab and shoot up to you and grab that data and sending it up to whatever board you have, whether that's fixed digit or video. So Presto Sync, another nice one to have. And then stat partners. And I actually want to show you stat partners real quick because I think that's very important. So when you click in a season and you click in stats, there's a couple of different things I'm going to show you. Number one is stat partners. So this is how you're going to send stats out if you're not using PrestoStats Primetime. So if you have a Presto website, you can use PrestoStats Primetime, and that's our live stat display feature. If you're not a Presto web user, this is where you would come. So in here, you can click any number of things. So if you're sidearm user and you're using sidearm live stats, you can use that. If you're using stat broadcast, you can use the other XML live stats and send that directly out through here as well. So all sorts of options there for you. With one more thing, going into stats, you can also go into advanced reports. I'm actually going to show you this in baseball because it actually shows a little bit more. Go back here. Go to seasons. Let's go to baseball season. And I'll go to advanced reports here. This is where you're going to have a lot of different reports outside of just a box score. So you can choose whatever games you want. You can choose whatever date filters you want and filter out your games. Combined is fairly standard. So you can see all of your combined stats here. Couple of different ones. The ones that a lot of people use are the situational stats, and it has all of these categories right here. So lots of different options for you in terms of the individual stats. It has individual game highs, all of that stuff. So we can go back to change filters, all games. There we go. Anyway, that is advanced stats.
And Brad, we did have a question. Is it possible for you to change the target directory under sidearm? The answer is yes. I can tell you that as someone who uses sidearm. You'd go to the stat partner link that Brad just mentioned. You'd go down to sidearm and put whatever directory you need the target directory to be. You would add the partner and then you would add the target directory. It's really simple. I don't know if you can change it off of each sport, but
what I would recommend with the target directory is if you need it to be something completely different, to go ahead and speak to support on that. That's going to be the easiest way to do that. Further questions?
That's all we have. I do want to remind our audience, if they have sport-specific stat questions, CSC did have a whole series on specific sports and how to stat specific sports. So check out those videos. They are very useful in finding shortcuts for your sport-specific, whether it's football, lacrosse, tennis, baseball, anything like that. Those videos, the library that CSC has created, is a great resource for our members.
One more thing, I can at least show what PrestoStats football looks like. And U Sports is currently using it. We had a delay in releasing it this year. Found some additional things we needed to fix. We want to make sure this is right for when it comes out for you. One of the things we are addressing right now is how participation works. So if you've seen demo on this before, you've seen that everyone's automatically marked as a participant and only the participants are the ones you can choose from to get stats. We have actually changed that. So now as you mark people in the game as having a stat, so you'll be able to choose anyone in the game in order to get a stat. And then as you mark them, they will automatically be flagged as a participant. So at the end of the game, you would just go to your roster and you would mark them as a participant or not. So that's one quick change that we are making for when that does arrive. Tommy, is there anything else that you would like me to run through? Anything else at all?
No, the same person who had the target directory says he not been able to get through to support. So what I'm going to recommend is they reach out to support once again. Brad will work on his end to make sure that they're on the lookout for that, and they will try to work with you to make sure that you can make those adjustments on his end and make sure we can get it right for you. So that's one thing coming out of the question.
Yeah, feel free to send me your support ticket number. You should get an email response with a support ticket number, and I can always shoot that over to someone if you're not receiving a response. You should get a response within 24 to 48 hours on something like that. If you're not getting that, that's definitely something that we want to make sure we tackle. So definitely send me that support ticket number, and we can look at that. And
let's make sure we have a lot of resources here, Brad, on this screen. So anything you want to go through with that for a member.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunities for the one-on-one training. So if there's something that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just stats, if it's with your website or anything else, you feel like you just need a little bit of a refresher in terms of, oh, how do I do this? You can do that through office hours, and you can schedule a time with one of our support people and they can walk you through that. If this is something having to do with a support case, we ask that you don't ask office hours. You can email me if it's been longer than 48 hours. I'd be happy to have someone take a look at that. That's not a problem. But also, I would just send a separate support ticket, reference your ticket number so someone can get back to you on that. We talked about our demo environment. That link is here. The Help Center is a great resource for you. Here, I'll go back into slideshow. But the Help Center is great. And when you go into your Help Center, it has all sorts of options for you. We definitely recommend you use that. We're updating that daily. So that is a nice resource for you. But there's all sorts of different stuff here. If you're ready to get stats for winter and spring, we recommend you don't wait until the day before. Make sure you go ahead and get all that done, get your roster set up, get everything ready to go. There's a link in here, as I referenced earlier, about PrestoStats record books, all sorts of stuff. One thing that I always recommend you do, and I would recommend everyone here that is a Presto customer doing, sign up and subscribe to our status IO. If anything is going on with our network, you will get a message about that directly into your email. It will give you more information about that. We try to put all that in our Facebook page as well as it comes, but if anything pops up, that's going to give you a direct line. Finally, we talked about our emergency text support line for like game days. This is that number. So you can text that number. That is not a number that we're responding to calls on. That's a text only line. So you can respond. You can go and send that in. That will go to a lot of us, and we'll get your problem sorted out.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brad. We appreciate your time, your expertise in helping our athletic communicators prepare for a successful year. We'd like to thank everyone who's joined us today and has submitted questions. Please take time to complete their brief post-webinar survey to help us to improve our future programming. We encourage you all to visit collegesportscommunicators.com for updates on future webinars and membership news. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you all.